In this section, we will review the substance abuse policy and the changes to the policy that will be effective May 1st, 2013. The main purpose for this policy is to ensure that substance abuse is removed from the work environment and to advise employees that they are expected and required to be in a condition to safely and effectively perform their duties at all times. Full and part-time employees and temporaries are subject to the testing. Elected officials, Ag Extension agents, and board members are exempt. Sheriff's Office and ICATS employees have different standards to comply with as it relates to substance abuse, so those employees in these departments will be required to comply with their departmental policies. You as an employee are responsible for knowing and adhering to the requirements of this policy. Also, if you have reason to believe that a coworker is wrongfully using any controlled substance, you should report it to management immediately. The requirement for an employee to notify their supervisor of an arrest or conviction for any criminal drug or alcohol violation has not changed. As a reminder, please be sure that you notify your supervisor no later than 5 days after an arrest or conviction. An arrest for substance abuse will automatically require you to undergo a drug test. The consequences of the arrest, conviction, or drug test results will be addressed in accordance to the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance. Should you be under an investigation, hearing, or trial for a drug-related offense, the county manager may suspend with pay in accordance to the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance. Iredell County has a no-tolerance policy for the use of illegal drugs. Any employee who has a positive test result that indicates the use of an illegal drug will be subject to termination. Employees who test positive for the misuse of legal drugs, such as a prescribed medication, will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Some facts that may be considered are the employee's work history, their job duties, how long they have been on the job, their current job performance, past disciplinary actions, and the nature of the substance abused. Again, this section is for the misuse of legal drugs, such as prescribed medications. If you are not dismissed due to a positive test, you will be required to follow a plan that is developed by a substance abuse professional, and you will be required to participate in an employee assistance program. You will also need to use compensatory, sick, annual leave, and leave without pay respectively for any absences as it relates to rehabilitation. While on a treatment plan for testing positive for substance abuse, you will be required to have frequent unannounced testing following your return to duty. These tests may be performed for a period of 1 to 5 years with a minimum of 6 tests during the first year. A prohibited substance is defined under the Controlled Substances as outlined in the North Carolina General Statutes, or it could be a legally prescribed drug that is misused or the use of a prescription medication not prescribed to you. As a reminder, please do not take any medicine that is not prescribed in your name, because if the medication shows up in your system, you will be required to provide proof that the prescription is yours. Also, take only the amount that is prescribed on the prescription label. Employees are asked to report to your supervisor any use of prescribed medications that may alter mental functioning, motor skills, or judgment. Employees who move from a non-safety sensitive position to a safety sensitive position as defined in this policy will be required to successfully complete a drug test. Positive test results will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. The drug test that will be performed is a 5-panel test. It will detect marijuana, cocaine, amphetamines, opiates, and methamphetamines. If your test is positive, you will receive notification from HR identifying the particular substance found, and your employment will be addressed in accordance to this policy and the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance. The county may opt to perform testing in any form at any time. Currently, we test for substance abuse by a urine test, but we do have the option to do mouth swabs, hair samples, blood draws, or any other way deemed possible. Effective May 1st, we will begin implementing the random drug testing aspect of this policy. The next several slides will detail out how the testing will be conducted and, most importantly, who will be tested. If need be, take a break from this training video and return to this slide so that you are attentive through this section. Safety-sensitive positions only will be placed in the random drug testing pool, and that testing will be spread throughout the year. 50% of the employees in safety-sensitive positions will be tested annually, and 10% of those holding CDLs as a requirement for their job will be alcohol tested annually. The random testing program is set up through our Munis software system. This program randomly selects the names to be tested. No one can override the program and choose the individuals to be tested. This operation will be managed and administered by the Human Resources Department. Employees selected for random testing will be paid for the time used, whether on or off duty. Mileage will be paid for personal vehicle use in accordance to the Iredell County travel policy. Again, you will be required to report for testing immediately. Failure to report or sign a consent form will be equivalent to refusing to submit to a drug test, which could result in termination. As previously stated, safety-sensitive positions only will be in the random drug testing pool. Safety-sensitive is defined as a position that the county determines to play a role in the operation where impaired performance could result in an incident affecting the health and safety of others. Listed are the guidelines used to determine what positions will be in the random pool. Any position that requires the use of weapons, operations of vehicles, machinery or equipment, excluding office equipment, and in positions where the mishandling of hazardous materials may place an employee, fellow employee, or the general public at risk of a serious injury or could potentially create a security risk in the workplace. Examples of safety-sensitive positions include any positions that do any of the following: provide direct patient care, such as an EMS paramedic or public health nurse, a firefighter, anyone operating, maintaining, or repairing passenger-carrying motor vehicles, such as a mechanic with vehicle services, driving to reach a client or transport a client, such as a social worker, driving, patrolling, or picking up items on a regular basis, such as a mail carrier, an inspector who travels as an essential function of his job, relaying information in critical situations where a delay could cost a life, such as a telecommunicator, and other positions as determined on a case-by-case basis. The positions in the next several slides are positions identified within Iredell County that will fall into the random drug testing pool. After you review this presentation, your department head should follow up with you to inform you if you are in the random testing pool. As a reminder, those who are required to obtain a CDL for the position they hold will also have alcohol testing. This slide and the next several slides will identify specific positions within each department that will be considered safety sensitive for random drug testing purposes. Please take a moment and review the position titles within the departments that you see listed: the Ecom Department, or 911, Facility Services, Code Enforcement, and Department of Social Services. Additional positions that will be in the safety-sensitive random drug testing pool are positions with our EMS department. our Fire Marshal's office, the Health Department, and our Parks and Recreation Department. Additional positions in the random drug testing pool are positions within the Planning Department, positions within Solid Waste, Tax Office, Vehicle Services, and Animal Services. After open enrollment, your department head should contact you directly and advise if your specific position is within the random drug testing pool. Moving away from random drug testing, the next few slides will detail out some changes to the post-accident drug testing aspect of the policy. Again, this is an important section, so feel free to take a break from the training so that you can absorb everything being discussed. All employees will be required to be tested for drugs and alcohol following an on-the-job injury in the following circumstances: the loss of a life of someone in the accident, and there being reasonable suspicion that drugs and alcohol are a contributing factor to the accident; if there is an injury to someone involved in the accident that requires medical attention or treatment at a hospital or medical facility, and there also being reasonable suspicion that drugs or alcohol are a contributing factor to that accident; if a law enforcement officer determines that a motor vehicle accident is the fault of the employee, that will result in automatically being tested for drugs or alcohol. Testing may include all surviving employees that operate the vehicle and any others whose performance may have contributed to the accident, provided there is reasonable suspicion. Testing may also be conducted if there are underlying reasonable suspicions of alcohol and drugs being involved, as outlined in the reasonable suspicion section of this policy. Management does have the authority to deem if there is reasonable suspicion to test in any of the situations discussed. If you have an accident, you're required to notify your supervisor immediately and are required to be tested for alcohol within 8 hours of the accident, and within 32 hours of the accident, you're required to be drug tested. After an accident, refrain from the use of alcohol for 8 hours or until the alcohol test has been completed. If you are in a safety-sensitive position, you will not be able to return to work until the test results are received. If you leave the scene of an accident or fail to be available for a test after an accident, you will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. The reasonable suspicion section of this policy is not changed, but this slide is a reminder to this aspect of the policy. If there is reasonable suspicion that an employee is under the influence of alcohol or drug use, the supervisor, along with the witness, will confront the employee. All signs and symptoms will be documented, and HR will be contacted. Refusing to consent, delay, or fail to appear for the test may be grounds for disciplinary action up to and including termination. If the test is positive, the employee will have the option to consult with a medical review officer and provide them with proof of a prescription of the drug. This section of the policy discusses a Last Chance Assistance Program. The Last Chance Assistance Program is a memorandum of understanding for employees who come forward seeking help for their illegal use of drugs or alcohol. This program is only allowed if an employee willingly comes forward prior to them being notified that a drug or alcohol test is required. The purpose of this part of the policy is, 1, to allow employees to proactively turn to management for substance abuse help. 2, it provides protection for the county if we have any form of discrimination charges made by someone for a drug or alcohol issue. It is the county's evidence that we do not intend to discriminate against anyone who has a drug or alcohol problem, but rather to assist them to getting on the road to recovery. The stipulations of the program are as follows. Again, you must seek help prior to being notified that you have been selected for a random test, or prior to having an accident that is going to require you to be tested, or prior to being called into the office for reasonable suspicion that you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol on the job. You also fully promise to cooperate with the requirements of this program. After you return to work, you will be required to be randomly tested. Testing positive under this program will result in immediate termination. As part of this agreement, you consent to the county having the authority to speak with a rehabilitation organization to confirm that you are attending and progressing in the program. Management has the option to place an employee on leave while in the rehab program. Compensatory sick and annual leave respectively will be required to be used for time away from work. Although you come forward with a problem, you will be held to the same standards as all other employees. Future employment will depend on you remaining drug-free and alcohol-free. Employees have the right to exercise the grievance policy using the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance. Questions regarding this policy should be directed to your department head or Human Resources. A copy of the policy is available on Employee Self-Serve. And as a reminder, the policy changes are in effect May 1st, 2013. Thank you.